Good evening, friends, and welcome to another episode of Kirby Russia. This is a live stream. Who the hell am I? I am an American who's worked in the Russian media for a heck of a long time, so I have a pretty unique perspective on Russia because I get invited to very interesting events like I was yesterday. Today I'm going to talk about an event held by the Russian Dream Organization, which sounds kind of just like something more, I don't know, for kids or something, but it's actually a very serious political organization that wants to put together the idea of what the Russian equivalent of the American dream would be. However, they invited me, as only one of two foreign people, to be part of a large discussion about the upcoming American elections. And why did they invite me? Well, I've been interested in this organization for a long time, and I'm a fan of ideology and all that stuff, but I think because they were dealing with America, and I think because they knew that, I'll put it this way, if you invite anyone who some people consider a journalist to be part of some event, that's because you want them to spread the message. So I think that's maybe what they wanted from me. However, I had my own ideas about what's going to happen in the U.S. election, how that can affect Russia. I kind of made a video a bit about that earlier, but that was more related to why Putin would choose Harris over Trump. But anyways, long story short, I'm a lot more optimistic than a lot of people in the Russian intellectual elite. Okay, so let me start off by telling you then what they sort of had in mind. And of course, this was a group of people, some people it seemed like the one guy was from within the presidential administration, one person was extremely high up within the Ministry of Internal Affairs, which you'd consider sort of your FBI police, like that sort of internal security within Russia, and some other people, as well as a very famous journalist, Mira Tereda. You've probably seen her. She's covered everything in the Donbass, and she is sort of the leader of the BRICS Union of Journalists, Association of Journalists. I forget the proper title, but anyways, I knew her and my one good friend, Mr. Asafov, who is Russia's leading expert on everything electoral. He is the Lord of Elections. The guy knows everything about how elections work in every country, and all the statistics and all the history of it. He is quite the expert. So, pretty diverse group, but I think the opinions of people from within the presidential administration and the Ministry of Internal Affairs are what really maybe count more than some people who I would consider personal friends. Why? Because unfortunately, guys, let me say this, because Hillary Clinton just basically on some, excuse me, what I presume is a TV appearance, kind of just threatened basically every American citizen who has anything positive to say about Russia with death. Yes, death. So I guess I should be pretty clear that I am relaying this information not to manipulate you, and in fact, I don't really agree with it. So first off, I'm relaying information I don't necessarily agree with, but because I think people have the right to know. And one of the whole points of doing a channel that comes from the perspective of someone who's an insider is to sort of spread insider information, whether it's necessarily the kind of stuff that's going to happen or not going to happen. So, again, don't shoot the messenger. I think that's kind of what I have to say here. So, why do I have sort of a dark tone? Why do I mention this? Because, guys, essentially what some of the predictions are for the American elections is, well, I'll put it this way. One thing that could actually be a positive for both America and for Russia and for avoiding a nuclear war is that, okay, on the surface, we've seen Medvedev and to a lesser extent Putin and some other people within the sort of Russian establishment finally start acting like the West is not their friend, especially in terms of the establishment, that the Western establishment hates them and is always going to hate them, and has always hated them, and they need to stop looking at the West with rosy-colored glasses. And actually, to be honest, treat the West kind of like how Russians treat everyone else, because it's amazing. When it comes to Chinese people, Russians engage in realpolitik. When it comes to Indians, realpolitik. Africans, same thing. Arabs, realpolitik. Iranians, same thing. Russians treat everyone as this essential sort of different but equal. That's how they treat pretty much everyone in the world, except the West. For all the years I've been here and since the beginning of Peter the Great's reign, Russian people have looked at the West again with the rosy-tinted glasses, as they say in Russian, or as being some sort of Ubermenschen that that live in paradise. And that's only finally starting to change now. And behind the scenes, although this event some of it was filmed, so it wasn't exactly secret. But you could see that people within the real Russian establishment have completely given up. I should give it up. They seem to have completely rid themselves of this inferiority complex of being Russian and seeing the West as being superior. That is incredibly important for Russia's future, and I say to avoid a nuclear war, because one of the reasons that Russia has suffered so much is because Russia has been bend over backwards nice butt kissers to people who despise them and see them as subhuman. It's caused a lot of problems over the years, but that seems to be changing. So that's maybe the one good thing. Now, I heard some predictions that didn't sound good that came from people. Now, we also have to remember that there are people on this planet, and there's a lot of them, who when they make political predictions, they write what they want to happen. Okay? Whether they do it knowingly, as in like some kind of conscious propaganda, or whether they just sort of do it instinctively, most people predict the future that they want to happen, okay? Not necessarily the future that maybe is going to happen. And I try to because I catch myself doing that too, but I try to fight it. I know people do that. I fight it, but, sometimes I can be a little bit maybe overly optimistic at times myself, okay? But anyways, so why do I say this? Because some of these people are real insiders. They are, how do I say this in a YouTube-friendly way? They are absolutely sure that Trump's days are numbered, not just because he's an older man. I'll put it that way. That he doesn't have 9 lives, and that he's going down. How do they know that? They didn't say. So that's number one. And the thing that's more important than that, well, number 2, that they believe that the establishment of the United States is totalitarian. As in, it's not even just that, like I said, that they finally don't see them with the rosy-colored glasses, everyone's favorite Russian expression, but that the West has fallen into a totalitarian nightmare state, and it is only going to get worse, and that at some point they see some sort of civil conflict within the United States as an almost certainty. And that prediction is probably going to affect the way that Russia behaves and acts in the future, because, for them, the way they were expressing it, it sort of wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when. And so, again, who knows? Sometimes people write the prediction that they want to come true. So it's wishful thinking from people who are very offended by the actions of the U.S. establishment in Ukraine. So that's sort of could be a vengeance thing. It could be good old Russian pessimism that, of course, their society is going to collapse. But if it is based on, let's just say, data that the intelligence services have that maybe we don't have access to, then that ain't good. That ain't good. And again, I don't tell you this because I want this to happen. In fact, I don't. I want any political changes in the United States to happen in a very smooth, very low violence way. I say low violence because, well, if one guy punches another guy somewhere, then there's a little bit of violence. By low violence, I mean very, very low violence way. Sometimes it's kind of hard to avoid that. Even during the transition of the Crimea to Russia, I think in the process of that, like 6 people died. So an example of a very major, huge event that had very low violence. Okay, so just as an example. So, first off, coming from people who are in the know, who actually have sort of the intelligence info, that sucks, and that is very scary. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, if you want to call into the show, you can use the... Sorry, I'm already going back to radio DJ mode. If you want to call in the show, you can use the raise your hand function. After I'm done with my spiel, we can talk about it. Or if you basically comment anywhere on Tim Kirby Russia Hardcore on Telegram, it will appear into a place that I call the chat. Basically, everywhere that you would comment, it goes to the same place and I can see it. So comment on Tim Kirby Russia Hardcore if you want to ask me a question, and I will see it. It'll appear in front of my face on my magic computer here. Okay. So anyways, that was their prediction, that they really see the upcoming elections as the catalyst for some sort of, let's just put it lightly, major crisis in the United States. And again, so that way Hillary Clinton doesn't send her thugs to come kill me. I don't personally believe that to be true, and I am only referring this to the public because that is your sort of journalistic duty. Okay? It could be false. Anyways, what I told them was a bit different. Oh, and also that Trump is done. If in a physical sense, he will be, in their opinion, he will be with God way sooner than he should be. Okay. Also, not a good thing. So, here we go. And that the United States has become totalitarian, and there's no going back. That's another one. That's also not good. Not good, friends. Okay. So, what did I tell them? Well, I like to break down all the possible options. So I said, well, what happens, and the main thing I sort of base this on is, despite the fact that there seemed to be potentially one long-range rocket attack that happened in Tarapiets that hit some ammo depot, it would seem that within the military, despite the fact that, what's his name? Not Watson. Oh, man. The Minister of, what do we have? Of Defense of the United States? Lloyd Austin. There we go, Lloyd Austin. Despite the fact that Lloyd Austin said a lot of aggressive things, it seems like, at times, it seems like he's been not as aggressive. If you remember, before him, his predecessor was Milley. And remember, Milley once said very openly to the press that we live in a tripolar world, as in multipolar world. So, anyways, what am I getting at? That it would seem as though the actual military has kind of stepped in and told the politicians and State Department types, like, the whole long-range missile thing, let's not do that. Oh, let's not do that. And it seems like Blinken and Stammer have sort of been forced to back down from that. And that's important. And also, again, why do I bring this up? Because that's an important context for my prediction. Another context is that despite the fact that it doesn't make logical sense, in my opinion, the opinion of many politicians is the whole Ukraine thing will have a huge effect on the elections. And if you, and I do believe that they believe that, although it really wouldn't. But they believe that if, Ukraine were to sort of crumble before the elections, that could kill things for the Democrats. That brings in the evil orange man who is bad. And for them, that is an very undesirable fate. And they'll do anything to keep this conflict going another, 47 days at this point, or however many freaking days. So those are two contexts. And when you look at things through those two contexts, if Kamala wins, and again, I even told them that, to be honest, if you actually look at, real polling data from more neutral polls, or if you just even really review the fact that maybe only 1 in 5 or 1 in 4 Americans actually partially or fully supports the woke agenda, she doesn't have a chance. She really doesn't. But, if she wins by whatever, good advertising or other means, I do think that the Democrats, in the first year then of her taking power, it's going to be the best time for them to bail on Project Ukraine. Just like how Biden picked a really good time to bail on Project Afghanistan. I think that that's very much within the cards. And you have to remember that the military-industrial complex is a bit flexible. And they keep talking about the demilitarized zone. They've talked about this for a little bit before. But you have to remember that the demilitarized zone that's on the Korean Peninsula worked out pretty good for the military-industrial complex. Because generations worth of military money has been funneled into South Korea to do nothing. It's massive money and manpower hole that doesn't require a whole heck of a lot of action. And they might be looking to see something like that. I mean, even if you listen to the plan of J.D. Vance, which is kind of actually in agreement with Putin, they're kind of like, yeah, well, we're definitely going to create a demilitarized zone. Yeah, we're going to, try to find a way to freeze the conflict. Yeah, demilitarized zone. It's going to be, the demilitarized zone is going to be so big, it's going to be the size of the average sort of like artillery or rocket range, which is big. I mean, it's going to be a big freaking demilitarized zone. But on the other hand of that demilitarized zone would be a lot of military industrial complex money dumping, I am sure. So I actually think that regardless of who wins, but if Kamala wins, then Project Ukraine is going to get given up on within the first year. Another thing that I also told them, which is important, is that, when they talk about how Putin wants to take over all of Europe, he wants to invade Warsaw and Bucharest and Berlin and all this, they do that on the one hand to sort of scare Europeans into going along with all of this. But I think one of the other things is you have to remember that as someone who works in the media, I know about messaging. And when they keep saying that over and over again, that, he wants to take over Europe, he has ambitions to attack Poland, no. Wherever the Ukrainian conflict ends, they're going to say there was a victory for NATO because he didn't take Warsaw or attack Poland at all. Okay? So, on the one hand, they do have their exit ramp. Their exit ramp is wherever the conflict stops, it's a win because we stopped him, because we say his goal was to, have a currywurst in Berlin after invading it. Okay? So that was another thing. So, judging especially by the recent sort of mini, I wouldn't say surrender, mini backstep, the little bit of backstepping about the use of long-range missiles, it looks like this project might be kind of coming to a close here. That, so that's what will happen if Kamala wins. If Trump wins, what I told them is that he's going to try to. I told them the one thing I want to mention is that that's a difference between Trump 2016 and Trump 2024. The big difference is that this time he's putting together his team Trump, right? And it has even some Democrats on it, like Tulsi Gabbard, who everyone loves, and Robert Kennedy, Robert Kennedy Jr. In English, so the thing is, I'm used to saying it in Russian where you say his full name, but he's RFK Jr. in English. And it has Elon Musk, and he's gathering other people. And I told them that obviously every time there's a presidential campaign, I'm not an idiot. I remember the other presidential campaigns. A lot of times the presidents want to get famous people on their side, right? And that's very attractive to voters, and people who are idiots because their favorite celebrity votes for someone, they will too. So that's why it's the power of Taylor Swift to shift votes to Kamala. Who knows? Taylor Swift is pretty freaking popular. Can she affect people's voting habits? Maybe to an extent. But anyways, Trump isn't putting together just celebrities, although certain celebrities like Trump, Kanye West, he and Trump probably drink a lot of Hennessy together. I don't know. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is that he's putting together this team of people. And I think what his thing is maybe he realized that, the first time he didn't put together a team, and he sort of had to use the people who are associated with the Republican Party, and this whole I'm the decider thing doesn't work in politics. So I think this time he wants to come in and shove his big semi-celebrity team members who are also competent people, remember? Again, they're not celebrities who are just like, I don't want to hate on the guy. I got nothing against Tom Cruise, but I wouldn't exactly put Tom Cruise in a serious governmental position, okay? He's a fantastic actor, excellent stuntman, very positive, very positive person, but no. Whereas the people that Trump is creating for his team really can probably get the job done. Although some people say Elon Musk has faked his entire career. I don't know. We'll see soon, won't we? So Trump is using a different strategy, which proves he's not insane. And also I mentioned the fact that if people do want to end his life prematurely, that means he must be onto something. because there have been plenty of elections in U.S. history where there seemed to be two sides, but ultimately nothing changed. And maybe they were pretty hot on the microphone while debating each other, but then after the elections were over, basically all hard feelings were lost. And with Trump, that is not the case. So, also, although the Democrats would end the war and declare it a victory, like I said, if Trump tries to end the war, they're probably going to declare it a failure or a loss, even though the results will be exactly the same. And Trump seems to be a lot more focused on internally developing America. But the main thing is, and Putin was right, Trump is chaotic. Even one person during this big discussion, he called Trump something like a chaotic, narcissistic baby. Okay, which was pretty brutal, but there is a little bit of that. With Trump, you really don't know what's going to happen. He is kind of all over the place, or at least with his rhetoric. So, who knows? But it's looking like, again, Trump is going to push, at least openly, to end the war in Ukraine. And according to J.D. Vance, that ending of Ukraine looks... his vision of ending the war looks a lot like Putin's vision. They're definitely very compatible visions, because Putin says we're gonna Crimea plus the 4 states that are now part of Russia. That's the base, like the baseline where negotiations start. And Vance said, well, where the fighting is, it has to stop, and the Russians are just going to keep what they have. That's very similar. Very, 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 very similar. So thankfully, it's looking like after the elections, this thing will finally be put to bed. All of these people who are still in danger, hopefully a lot of them will survive till the end of this, and we could call this thing a day. And based on the way that this big conversation went, I don't know if the Russian military is going to play by Western political rules. I think it's going to keep doing what it's doing. But they might not really try to up the ante or push right before the election just to keep things smooth. That's kind of the vibe I got, that only 40-some days left. Let it go. Once the elections happen, then whatever happens after that kind of doesn't matter, because the politicians aren't really bound to this conflict anymore. So anyways, that is... that's kind of all I wanted to say. So let's see if we have anything here. Oh, wow, what is this? The Rosebot has banned a person for posting YouTube links to videos with inappropriate black jokes. What? Okay. All right, that was weird. Why would this person do that? And they were also banned in the American Village for doing the same thing. So it must have been a bot that's going around trying to make my reputation look bad, because I do like to periodically have a couple jokes, take a little poke at my African American brothers, but not to that extent. So, yeah. Anyways, did someone want to talk to me? Ooh, talk! My voice is cracking. So did anyone want to talk, have a chit-chat here with me about anything? It does not matter what, especially to maybe raise the mood of this program, because, man, guys, I'll tell you what. When I was sitting at that round table and I was hearing that inside, the way... Oh, wait, oh, no, that's a person with a similar name. Never mind. I thought Miro was actually here. But anyways, when I was hearing this really bleak outlook for the future of the United States, maybe for people who are Russians and it's not going to affect them, that doesn't matter. But for me, it was just like, man, these people are predicting like the sum of all fears. The sum of all fears is upcoming. So, I don't know. But at least it looks like the war in Ukraine is going to sputter out and end. We just have to make it to the elections, which are coming soon. 40-some days left at the time of recording. Something wrong with my internet. I did a live stream earlier and the internet completely crapped out. Is the internet working now? Because normally there's always at least one question. There's like, what, 30 of you are watching. Come on, guys. No questions today? Am I just going to have to bail? Oh, someone wants to talk. Someone named Aloha. I think it's your first time on the program. So, Aloha, make sure you unmute yourself. You have to unmute yourself. I do believe your icon is a Parliament Funkadelic, which I appreciate.
All right, thank you. My question is a little bit off topic.
Sure.
And it has to do with the prevailing attitude, or maybe you can call it the common public opinion about, in Russia, I mean, about India and people from India.
Yes. Oh, the prevailing public opinion about India? There isn't too much of one. I mean, a lot of Russians have gone to India on vacation, but India doesn't really have a very large effect on public life in the United States. So I don't really see many people having a particularly either positive or negative view on India. But I will tell you one thing is that most Indians who come to Russia have money. So they tend to be very well dressed, very well spoken, business people, government officials, and all that. So, I would say that Indians in Russia probably leave a very positive impression because only the Indians who are upper class come here. Anything else? Aloha?
And a little bit relating to this question, thank you very much for your answer.
Sure.
Regarding the same question, regarding the geopolitics and the relations between Russia and India, people that are interested in geopolitics, what are their opinion regarding India as a country? It's a friendly country, obviously, because they belong to the BRICS.
Okay.
But yeah.
Well, if you want to talk about sort of like the analysis sphere, what they think of India, is that, let me put this in the right way. India doesn't owe Russia anything, okay? But people really see India as this core of the multipolar world, that India is a really big country and it's a really important country. And it's also very good that throughout the Cold War, despite the fact that technically, India was part of the, let's just say, the capitalist world, and then Russia was the core of the communist world. Despite all that, they were able to get along, from what I understand, very well. And so I would say that people who are sort of in the know see India, again, as this reasonable country, about this country that doesn't get caught up so much on like ideology or something like that. So yeah, I would say the perspective is that Russia and India are capable of getting along and have gotten along, and especially in the past when they had reasons to not get along, not geopolitical reasons, but purely political reasons, right? The geopolitical situation between Russia and India is amazing because they don't touch each other. Stress in geopolitics always comes when civilizations touch, and Russia and India do not. So that's a good thing. Of course, the United States doesn't touch Russia, but when the United States is part of the West, which does touch Russia, that's where the strength or the stress comes from. If the United States woke up tomorrow and was like, you know what, we're going to do the whole Monroe Doctrine and sit on our continent, then all of a sudden there would be very little stress with Russia. But yeah, so anyways, people are looking forward to doing more business with India. I'll put it this way, people in Russia are extremely optimistic about the BRICS. Both normal people and intellectuals and that kind of people. And the I in BRICS is India for a reason. So, there you go. All right, anything else?
Thank you.
All right, thank you for calling in and asking a good question. All right, and the Algo Cowboy. I want to say Anglo Cowboy, but it's the Algo Cowboy. You are unmuted, so you have to unmute yourself. And you have very good user icons, sir. All right.
Why you? Yeah, that's the that's a crypto thing right now, bull market thing.
Yes.
I'm not before I work with V the Gorilla.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, we whole market thing, but the reason I'm kind of chiming in here is been having this conversation about leaving the U.S. for all the obvious reasons, and Tim Kirby's there. He's from the U.S. Now I have a wife and kids. I have 2 kids in diapers. So moving over there, like, is that going to be much more difficult? Is it realistic? Like, do you know people who are in my position who move?
Well, that's the whole reason why I created this whole American Village thing. It was to get around the normal barriers of Western people coming to Russia. The number one barrier was the fact that to immigrate, you basically had to be married to a Russian citizen. So my project is a get around for that, but the new legislation that's being worked out from Putin after his big decree about bringing Westerners here seems to have also annulled that. So essentially, you can basically immigrate to Russia now being married, whether it would be through the American Village or just normally. However, it's not immigrating to any country is not the easiest thing in the world. If you want to do the American Village, that's where you have a lot more support, and you buy land, you buy a house. We'll help you out with all that. My buddy Timur does all the paperwork for you, blah, 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 down the line, right? And everything becomes easier. If you just want to move to Russia in general, a lot of it is kind of I'll put it this way. There's this desire of a lot of Western people where they don't want, and you can even ask Kevin, who's the American in Crimea, about this too. People ask me advice, ask advice from me about moving to Russia. They don't listen to any of it, right? And then they make
we call them ask holes.
Ask holes. Well, there's a lot of them, and it's okay. I understand it's a weird part of human nature and whatever. But the thing is, then those people come and complain. It's no. So one of the key things about moving to Russia is, if you really want to move here, okay, you got a wife and kids, right? You basically have to move to Moscow, St. Petersburg, or the regions around them. Why? Because the migration services everywhere else suck. It doesn't matter if you have the right to live here or not. They're not going to let you. They're going to reject you. It's just the way it is, man. So all these people are like, well, I want to go live in the middle of nowhere. And I've heard horror stories, especially the worst place in Russia it would sound like the best place to live would be Krasnodar. Gorgeous place, beautiful, amazing weather, very interesting place to live. The worst migration services in the country, bar none. So if you want to realistically move here, you really want to do Moscow, St. Petersburg, and also for people who are unable or unwilling to learn the language, you will be able to do much better in Moscow or St. Petersburg, whereas in the rest of the country, you're not there. The other thing, too, is like where everyone thinks that Russia is paradoxically dirt frickin' poor. Like, it's like dirt poor, but really religious, but with a giant army. But then somehow they also think it's exactly the same as America. So there's this weird paradox. So, like, they come here and they're like, wow, it's actually so expensive. Buying a house here is really expensive. I didn't think it would be so expensive. I only brought like $10,000 with me. I thought I could live for 10 years on that. No. Okay? The Russia is more expensive than that. However, on the other hand, like, if again, with Siberia, you have to think about it. If you really want to live in Siberia, which is beautiful, think about what happens if you, well, my friend recently fell down and he actually horribly cut his rib cage. Okay, so like a 3-inch scar he has now that had to be sewn up, blood everywhere. Well, that happened in the Moscow region. Called an ambulance, sewed his ass up immediately. Something happens in Siberia, man. You're on your own.
I might have some kind of subtext for you. For one thing, we would learn the language. My wife actually speaks Serbian. Her parents are from former Yugoslavia. And it's real cool. She actually understands a fair amount of Russian because of the similar words. Like, she can kind of tell the gist of the conversation. I'm good with languages. I know 2 and learning a 3rd. As far as we would not want to live in the wilderness. We would want to live near a city, mostly for the reasons that you're talking about. Medical services, we have kids. They're going to have friends. Like, we probably would think heavily on the American Village just to have some people that, we can talk to.
Oh yeah, that's also kind of part of the process. So I'll send you. I just sent you a private message. I wrote the hi. So yeah, so then you're kind of the perfect candidate. And the American Village is a nice blend where it feels rural when you're there, but it is accessible to Moscow. Because Moscow, as you've seen, the propaganda tells the truth. Moscow is the nicest, gigantic megacity to live in. But the question is it really enjoyable to live in any gigantic megacity? No matter how nice it is.
No. Not interested.
And that's another reason.
I lived in LA for,
Yeah, and that's another thing with the whole why I did the American Village thing. Because when I talk to people who speak English as a native language, freaking no one wants an apartment. Like very, very few people want to live the apartment lifestyle. So that's another reason why we did, outside the city there. Anyways, thankfully the Moscow government's cooperated with the Moscow regional government because they're two separate states. So the transport's gets better and better, and everything gets closer and closer and faster and all that. And yeah, so there you go. But with the language, it's good that you have the right attitude because it is critical. Like the people who come here and they don't learn the language, they just basically you create you build a tomb for yourself, and that tomb is called teaching English. I know if and if Daniel's listening, he's going to be really offended by that. I'm sorry, Daniel. I love you, and I'm glad that you like teaching English. For me, that was the worst thing I've ever done in my life. I hate it, but it's a trap that a lot of foreigners fall into. If you can speak Russian like 5 or 6 out of 10, all of a sudden you could work and have a normal job and a normal life and all that other stuff. So yeah. But,
sure. I mean, I'm in cryptocurrency. I know their rules on crypto over there seem to be kind of pretty tight, though. If somebody, I trade all kinds of currencies, and I'm not simply crypto, but how does that work over there as far as crypto? Can you spend it? Can you turn it into rubles? Or is it pretty much like, no, you can't?
Well, I know people who do it, who sell things on these crypto, what are they called, marketplaces or trade, the place where you go to trade stuff. I mean, people do it. The thing is it's like, it sounds like it's regulated, but also no one cares. So it's one of these things where it's kind of regulated, but it's kind of isn't. I don't do crypto anymore. I did, and then after I lost a bunch of it, I'm done. I really hate the process, but you can do it. The real taxation is actually on profit made from crypto. So I don't quite understand how they even really track what's exactly profit. So it's like, you buy, I don't know, $1,000 worth of crypto, but then you sell it for like 1,100. So they'd only tax like the 100 that's profit. That I know for sure, but how do they know? So I don't really get it. I do know that they want to make crypto become a much more official thing. Like you can actually have crypto on like a normal bank account. That they want to eventually have like that kind of option, in which I think everything will be done automatically. Because if you take, say, like as a citizen, I have self-employed status. So on the one bank, every time someone sends me money, whether it's just because they love me or whether it's because I did some sort of little side work, it presents the option. Was this income? Were you sent money that's income? And you can say, yes, it's income. And then you pay 6% taxes on it. And you never have to worry about the tax man ever coming for you again. You see?
Well, that's nice. 6% is the income tax rate over there?
It depends what you're doing. Well, self-employment, I always thought it was 4, but it does seem like they bumped it up to 6. That's your self-employment status is that way. Being the real loser position is sort of being a normal employee at what they call a white salary job. That's where you have to pay 13% income taxes, and then you have to pay like in your Social Security and all that. But when you're self-employed, you just pay, as of now, 6%.
Perfect. I mean, I got a whole plethora of questions I could ask you. I don't want to sit here and dominate the show,
No,
these are questions that have been...
I already did my spiel, man. If you got questions, a lot of people find this part the most interesting. So go ahead.
Sure. I mean, so for example, I left LA and moved out to a much more rural place in a red state. And so some of the things that we value here are the ability to protect yourselves, Second Amendment type stuff. Yeah. How is that over there? Is gun ownership like a thing? Or
Yeah, you can buy a gun. Okay, so there's a packet of laws, which is essentially like the Russian Second Amendment, is called On Gun. Okay, it's the laws that are about, but instead they say about, it's like laws onto guns. It's the way the language works. And essentially, one of the main problems about Russia that you'll find is that, well, I don't know if it's a problem. In this particular area, it's a problem. Is no one in Russia knows anything about the laws of their country. No one. Okay, their experts do, but if you start talking to people in Russia, they're going to fill your mind with lies, bullshit, emotions. So ironically, I would actually say don't really talk to Russians very much about moving to Russia unless they're like a migration lawyer or someone who has a lot of experience with this, because they don't know shit about their country. And they have this weird attitude towards Western people where they always want to like try to either act like they're on their knees in front of you or try to act really tough, like, oh, we're so tough, we're so cool, and you're not, you're all pussies. Okay? So it's better to talk to me about this because I'm a lot more, I know what it's about. So here we go. So the difference between America, which guarantees you the right to bear arms in this very open-ended way, is in Russia you're guaranteed the right to defend your life, which includes lethal force, under the certain following categories of weaponry. And that includes guns, but it starts off with only smoothbore guns. And limits you to having only
shotguns.
Pardon?
Shotguns.
Yeah, for the beginning. And then at some point after you have your first gun for like 2 years or whatever, you could get then a shotgun that shoots up to 10 rounds. And then after you have that for some period of time, you can have a rifle that shoots up to 10 rounds. Then again, you can buy as many magazines as you want. So again, it begs the question, this whole thing of why bother with the 10-round magazine, but who knows. So, you know, I know people who have a safe full of like semi-automatic AKs and like Winchester repeating rifles and Saiga carbines and all this other shit, right? So I know a lot of people who have that. So in Russia, there's like 150 million people, but there's something like, 10 million guns. Legal, 10 million guns, illegal, something like that. So they're fairly common, but I wouldn't say the average person owns them by the statistics. And the thing, though, that's the real problem and what gets into confusion is that in Russia, about defending yourself is you are, again, this is something that I think is going to get worked out in the near future. As Russia changes and develops, is the right to use force is you can't use more force than the other person applied to you who attacked you. So
there's no reasonable, it's more of a necessary thing. Yeah, like you might think they have a gun in their pocket, but you're not sure, and you cannot shoot them until they've drawn their weapon and it's aimed at you.
So I would say the big difference is it's like, okay, so in America, someone creeps over your back fence and they're wearing like at least let's talk about historical America, because America is also falling into this thing of like you could not be punished for doing something or have your life destroyed for doing the same thing. We don't know anymore. America's become chaotic. Let's just talk about old-timey America. Someone creeps over your back fence. They're dressed in all black clothing, very weird, with some kind of mask on or something to hide their identity. Maybe it looked like they had a gun, maybe they didn't. If you shot them, you'd be fine. Again, 1950s America.
Right.
Whereas in Russia, it would be like, well, you applied force against a target that what if they didn't have a gun? Well, then you were the one who applied too much force and now you're in trouble. But the thing is, the question of how much trouble you're in is also really up to debate. So
gotcha. It seems pretty loose.
It kind of, in some ways, I think it kind of depends on the judge. I'll repeat to you one joke that Russians have, that they say, the Russian legal system is completely fair. You kill 2 people, you go to jail for 2 years. You steal 3 chickens, you go to jail for 3 years.
I got you. Okay.
Theft is one of the hardest, most brutally punished things in Russia, so there's a little bit of truth behind it. Well, direct theft, not intellectual property theft. That happens every minute of every day. So, so the thing is about self-defense and all that, it gets into a weird thing. I'll tell you one thing, though. Generally, fist fights don't get punished. Like, if it's fist on fist, and that's why you see a whole shit ton of fist fights in Russia. Because there's really the cops don't care and no one ever punishes it for you. So like in England, you have everyone kills each other with machetes. In Russia, I think everyone knows that no matter how bad a fist fight goes, if the other guy lives through the fist fight, you're not going to get in trouble. As long as he's still breathing after it's over. So it's fist fight mania out here.
Well, I suppose there's some, I get where you're going with that. So, I mean, I have a whole bunch of questions, and I would hate, I have questions like, what if you were to kind of be a bit of a pillar in the community and perhaps, you were helping the community run? I think if you understand what I'm asking right now, does that kind of help you in those scenarios?
All right. So let me get back to, let me just say in closing about guns, which is something too important to look. If you're the scale of the world in terms of your gun rights, certain places in the United States, like my native Ohio, I would say are very top tier gun freedom. Like in Ohio, you can basically buy a gun like you'd buy a T-shirt from a.
Yeah, I live in a place just like that.
Okay, so Russia's not that good. But in California, where you get into stuff where you have to have a special lock on the gun, and Russia has, I would say, better gun laws than California does. And then you get into the rest of the world of your all these other countries out there. I mean, there's some exceptions. People say actually the gun laws in Finland are very generous, Switzerland as well. But for the most part, Russia actually winds up, because the world is so anti-gun on average, I would say Russia kind of winds up probably being in like the top 10 in terms of actually having gun rights, if you think about it that way.
Okay.
So
that sounds really good.
Remember, you're kind of comparing things of like the situation is so terrible on average that it makes Russia rise to the top. Okay. But
I got it. They call it
California. Okay, so
and I grew up there, so I know about California.
Okay, so now being about a pillar in the community, I would say that that
you get what I'm saying on that, right? You understand what I'm asking between the lines when I say that.
Yeah. Well, let me just put it this way: in Russian society, there's these two things. There's called svoy and chuzhoy. Svoy is like our own. Chuzhoy is alien or foreign, sort of, right? And this concept in Russia is very deeply rooted. If someone doesn't know you, you're nothing to them. If someone knows you, then we're all buddy-buddy and everyone will help you. And this is very important. And if you can become someone who is, I don't know if you want to call it a pillar of the community or a known person, or, basically people know who you are, your life in Russia will be way better than being a nobody. That's the way it is. If you can become that guy, whatever circle, say it's crypto circle. So if you start making friends in your crypto bro circle, and your car breaks, and one of the other guys owns a place where they fix cars, he'll fix your car right. I don't know if he'll exactly provide you the biggest discount or anything, but you go in there, your car will be fixed right. None of this bullshit where like maybe they put on a new part that wasn't new, or they didn't do a good job. He'll do it right because you're that guy. You're his crypto bro buddy guy from the crypto bro group, so he'll do that. If you're some random person who walks into a store, he'll never treat you that way. People don't understand this about Russia, but that is the way it is. And that's why, for me, one of the reasons why my life is more enjoyable than maybe a lot of other people's is I've become like a C-list celebrity here. So for me, wherever I go, I have the benefit of being that guy, or I can have the counter of I can tell them, I can seriously contact the government. I can fuck your organization up if you don't provide service. So unfortunately, that's one thing about Russia that a lot of people have trouble with, is they don't understand that Russia is an aggression-based society, where, like I said, is in some ways you have to kind of milk the service out of the service industry rather than it providing it for you. And if people who sort of sit around and sit on their hands just get crushed here. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. No, this is it reminds me a little bit of being in Sicily. I was there for about a month, and I saw some of that going on.
I'm sorry, I really can't say. I don't know what it is, but I definitely know that, again, if people where you live or in your business circle really know who you are, that is a massive bonus. Never be the random person who walks into some places as an unknown entity. Everything is harder that way. So.
Nice. Tim, I got to jump, but this has been great. I've wanted to talk to you for a while, so, I'll come back on one of these and chat it up.
After this live stream is over, I'll send you the link to the American Village. We'd love to have you. If you're a real crypto investor, it's going to be then cheap for you. Expensive for average people, but it'll be very affordable. And, we're already building houses, and the walls are already going up. We already always have the photos and all this other stuff, so... take a look. I'll send you a link after we're done. All right?
Yeah, looking forward to it. I got your DM.
Okay. All the best, man. Muting you now. Okay. Well, that was unexpected and very pleasant. Okay. All right. Let's see. Are there any questions? No questions. Wow. I don't know. That's surprising. 2 calls, no questions. It has never happened that there were more calls than there were written comments for a live stream. I don't think that has ever happened or ever could happen again. So tonight is an amazing night. But anyways, friends, again, recapping, my opinion of what's going to happen after the election is a little bit more optimistic. It looks like regardless of which candidate wins, the Ukraine war is going to come to an end. And I, again, based that off of the fact that it looks like they're backing off the escalation. Time is running out. And I forgot to mention earlier that, I think they really want to work on the problems happening in Israel more than anything else. So, someone wrote something in? that we are optimistic, says Nikki. Well, that was very nice of you, Nikki. I think this might be some cause for a little bit of optimism right now. Well, like I said, as long as the analysts from like the internal ministry and like the presidential administration or whoever the hell these people were, as long as they're wrong and the United States stays afloat, then it is a time for optimism because of the war seems to be drawing to a close, and for the Democrats, it's the perfect time with the new 4 years to get rid of it. And Trump has been pretty adamant that he is going to drop the war. And, you know, in the past he said this, that, or the other, but he seems pretty adamant about it. And I think he's a lot more also interested in what's happening in Israel and other parts of the world. And he's talking a lot more about tariffs and stuff and dealing with China. Than anything else. But yeah. So anyways, friends, I'm very happy for the 2 callers to make this a non-depressing live stream. But anyways, I guess I'm going to hit the road here. So Tim Kirby Russia signing out.